Hi there, and welcome to Ku English. In this series, we explore the lives of amazing people and help you improve your English at the same time. Ready? Let's dive in. Hermann Hesse Struggle, Turning Points, and Recognition, Part 3. Chapter 1. War, Isolation, and the Collapse of Old Certainties. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Hermann Hesse was already living in a state of inner tension. The fragile balance he had tried to build between family life, literary success, and personal solitude was beginning to crack. The war did not create his crisis, but it stripped away the last illusions that stability was possible without transformation. Unlike many German intellectuals of the time, Hesse did not greet the war with enthusiasm. While newspapers and public figures celebrated national unity and heroic sacrifice, Hesse felt unease. He believed deeply in individual conscience and spiritual responsibility, values that did not align easily with mass violence and blind patriotism. When he published an essay urging intellectuals to remain humane rather than nationalistic, the reaction was swift and harsh. Former admirers turned against him. He was accused of cowardice, betrayal, and moral weakness. Letters filled with anger and insults arrived daily. For the first time, Hesse experienced what it meant to be publicly rejected, not for artistic failure, but for refusing to think like the crowd. At the same time, his personal life collapsed. His father died, his youngest son became seriously ill, and his marriage deteriorated beyond repair. His wife's mental health declined, placing further strain on the household. The weight of responsibility, guilt, and isolation became unbearable. Hesse fell into a deep psychological crisis. He suffered from insomnia, anxiety, and depression. Writing became difficult, sometimes impossible. The inner voice that had guided him for years grew faint. He felt emptied, disconnected from meaning. In desperation, he sought help not from religion or philosophy, but from the emerging field of psychoanalysis. He entered therapy with a disciple of Carl Jung. For a man raised in strict Protestant culture, this step was radical. Instead of moral judgment, he encountered interpretation. Instead of discipline, he was encouraged to explore dreams, symbols, and the unconscious. This process was painful but transformative. Therapy did not cure him. It dismantled him. Childhood memories resurfaced, old wounds reopened, and suppressed emotions demanded attention. Yet within this breakdown, something shifted. Hesse began to see his suffering not as failure, but as material, raw, unfinished, but meaningful. The war isolated him from society, but it forced him inward. And in that inward turn, the conditions for a new kind of writing slowly emerged. Chapter 2. Writing Through Crisis, the Birth of a New Voice. Out of this period of breakdown came one of Hesse's most decisive creative breakthroughs. In 1919, under a pseudonym, he published Demian. The novel marked a clear departure from his earlier work. Gone were the gentle landscapes and quiet reflections of youthful longing. In their place appeared psychological intensity, symbolic depth, and a direct confrontation with inner division. Demian told the story of a young man torn between the world of social respectability and a darker, more instinctive inner life. The novel did not offer easy answers. Instead, it invited readers into a process of self-questioning and transformation. Good and evil were no longer opposites, but intertwined forces within the individual. The book resonated powerfully with a generation shaken by war. Young readers recognized their own confusion and disillusionment in its pages. For the first time, Hesse was not merely respected, he was needed. Yet success did not bring comfort. Hesse published Demian anonymously because he feared exposure. The book revealed too much. It was deeply personal, shaped directly by his psychological crisis. Recognition came, but so did misunderstanding. Some readers interpreted the novel as immoral or dangerous. Others reduced its complexity to slogans. Hesse moved to southern Switzerland, choosing physical distance from Germany and emotional distance from public life. He lived simply, surrounded by mountains and silence. Here, he continued writing, exploring themes of self-discovery, solitude, and spiritual conflict with increasing clarity. Works such as Siddhartha emerged from this phase, not as theoretical statements, but as lived experience transformed into narrative. The novel's calm surface concealed years of inner turmoil. Its journey toward balance was not idealistic. It was hard-won. Still, Hesse remained restless. Each book seemed to answer one question while revealing another. He did not write to resolve conflict permanently. He wrote to move through it, again and again. What had changed was not the presence of struggle, but Hesse's relationship to it. Crisis was no longer an enemy to be avoided. It was a passage, dangerous, exhausting, but necessary. Chapter 3. Recognition without belonging. By the 1920s, Hermann Hesse was internationally recognized. His books were widely read, translated, and discussed. He received literary awards and public praise. From the outside, he appeared successful and established. Internally, little had settled. Fame increased his sense of distance rather than belonging. Readers often projected their desires onto his work, turning complex inner journeys into simplified messages. Some treated his novels as spiritual manuals. Others criticized them as escapist. Hesse resisted both interpretations. He did not consider himself a teacher or prophet. He distrusted systems, movements, and fixed doctrines, including those formed around his own writing. The individual journey remained central, and that journey was never identical for any two people. His personal life reflected this tension. His second marriage also failed, reinforcing his sense that intimacy and independence existed in fragile balance. He withdrew further into solitude, not out of bitterness, but necessity. Social roles exhausted him. Writing sustained him. The recognition he had once longed for now felt ambiguous. It validated his work, yet it threatened to freeze it into expectation. Hesse continued to write against himself, refusing repetition, allowing each book to challenge the previous one. By the end of this period, he had passed through rejection, breakdown, and acclaim. None had provided final answers, but together they had shaped a writer capable of articulating modern inner life with rare honesty. The breakthrough was not a moment of triumph. It was a process of stripping away false stability, enduring misunderstanding, and learning to remain faithful to inner experience even when it led away from comfort. As the world moved toward further catastrophe, Hesse stood apart, older, more solitary, and more aware of the cost of his path. The final phase of his life would raise a quieter, heavier question. What remains after the struggle has defined a lifetime? That question would shape his legacy. Thanks for learning with Ku English. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.